Highways in Islamabad have been cleared, security perimeters are locked down, and the diplomatic tables are set for a second round of peace talks to pull the Middle East back from the brink of conflict. A fragile 2-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran expires at exactly 4:50 a.m. Pakistan Standard Time. After that, the missile strikes resume. But with just hours left on the clock, the entire process has frozen. Delegations from Washington and Tehran are sitting on the tarmac. Neither side is willing to take off. This map shows the problem. America faces a 14-hour flight to Islamabad. Iran needs only 2. Thus, both fear taking off first. Iranians suspect the US jet will launch, then turn around mid-flight. Americans fear flying across the globe to an empty chair. A total vacuum of trust has trapped both sides in a logistical deadlock, bringing the entire region to the brink of war over a travel discrepancy. For Donald Trump, arriving first is an intolerable risk. Landing at an empty negotiating table would be broadcast globally as a humiliating display, a perception his domestic base would view as political suicide. So American negotiators like Steve Witkoff remain grounded, their jets fully prepped and waiting, entirely dependent on Tehran blinking first and entering the airspace. The Iranian government is trapped in the exact same psychological bind. Showing eagerness to jump to the table before the ceasefire ends would contradict the image of unwavering resistance they project to their own citizens. In modern geopolitics, avoiding the mere optics of surrender often dictates strategy more heavily than the actual threat of military combat. To understand why these two nations are so evenly deadlocked, we have to look at the weapons they hold. Iran relies on asymmetric dominance, using unconventional tactics to neutralize a superpower's standard military advantages. Instead of matching Washington jet for jet, Tehran deploys swarms of cheap, radar-evading drones. Built from fiberglass and motorcycle engines, these devices can bypass air defense systems that cost millions to maintain. This diagram illustrates exactly how that asymmetric threat translates to global leverage. By threatening commercial vessels with those inexpensive drones, Iran maintains a tight chokehold over the Strait of Hormuz, dictating the flow of global energy markets. America's counter-strategy relies on overwhelming conventional force. Their goal is to systematically squeeze the Iranian economy until the financial pain forces a retreat. The US is executing this through global naval blockades, tracking down and physically seizing Iranian commercial oil tankers as far away as the Indo-Pacific Ocean. To enforce these seizures, Washington relies on its massive fleet of naval destroyers, projecting heavy military power to police shipping lanes thousands of miles from the Middle East. The tarmac standoff in Islamabad is the physical manifestation of this clash, a 20th century superpower's conventional might grinding to a halt against a 21st century power's asymmetric geographic choke points. Complicating this standoff are the geopolitical spoilers. Israel has distinct strategic objectives in the region, and maintaining military pressure on Iranian proxies means they actively benefit if these peace talks collapse. Meanwhile, Gulf states are panicking. They realize that hosting American military bases within their borders turns their own cities and economies into prime targets for Iranian retaliation if a full-scale war breaks out. To bridge this immense gap in trust, Pakistan stepped in. The country's military and political leadership, including RBT General Asim Munir, engaged in intense shuttle diplomacy, flying directly to Tehran to keep the lines of communication open. What they are building is known in diplomacy as a golden bridge. It's a mechanism that gives a trapped opponent an honorable route to retreat without ever having to admit defeat. We saw this play out when Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif issued a public request to extend the expiring ceasefire. This simple request gave Donald Trump the exact political cover he needed to halt the strikes, not as a concession to Iran, but as a favor to a mediator. A successful mediator rarely drafts the final peace treaty themselves. Their real job is manufacturing the political theater that allows heavyweights to back down without looking weak to their own citizens. After hours of delicate signaling and back-channel assurances, the gridlock finally breaks. The flights are cleared, the tarmac clears out, and the second round of the Islamabad peace talks is officially greenlit. While the immediate crisis was averted, the standoff highlights the widening gap between possessing massive military force and being able to actually apply it. The massive discrepancy in military spending between the US and Iran was rendered irrelevant the moment a $50 drone engine threatened a $1 trillion trade route. This scale shows how asymmetric tools act as a counterweight to traditional power. When a middle-tier nation holds a geographic choke point, they gain a tactical weight that forces a superpower into a state of parity. Preventing a global conflict now requires more than just military deterrence. It relies on mediators who can manage the friction between conventional might and asymmetric reach.